Welcome to the latest edition of the Steve Perryman Podcast. Seems like we've been away for some time, but I've been to Portugal for a very cloudy week. No sunshine, which is a real shame, but we've managed to book up again for late May. So welcome, Howard. Welcome, Tom. Thanks for your input again, as usual.
Evening, Steve.
Hi.
Well done. Thank you for turning up. And I suppose it seemed a long time for you, Howard, because you weren't on the last podcast, were you?
No.
I've had some nice comments about that, about my early days at Tottenham as an apprentice.
Yeah.
So the sort of stresses involved with it all, and some my own fault and some the club's fault. But there you go. It's all part of toughening you up, I suppose. But any stories, anything to go with Mother's Day? Did Vivian have a good Mother's Day? Was she respected and loved?
Yeah, no, we didn't see anyone.
Didn't see anyone, of course, because she's had COVID. Of course not.
That, but I think to be fair, Tara and the kids were all organised with things for Tara as mother.
Of course, yeah. And Tom, your mother was at your party, your birthday party?
She was, yeah. I kind of, given that Mother's Day was the day after my 40th birthday party, I feel like I neglected the whole Mother's Day side of things in lieu of my own recovery, which was I need to do some making up for there. But I arranged some flowers for both my actual mother and the mother of my children. So. And
your mother and father live in Cornwall?
They do, yeah. They live in Bude.
Did they leave that Sunday night, or did they leave Monday?
No, they stayed over at our place on Saturday night, and they headed back to Cornwall yesterday morning. Quite a complicated journey, and they ended up sat on the wrong platform for one of their changes as well, which meant they had to spend a couple of hours in a pub waiting for the next train, which Dad was devastated about, as I'm sure you can imagine. But
sure.
I might have made back eventually.
I might have told this story before about my mother, who's now passed away. There's various stories about her, but she was one of 9 children. Of those 9, 7 brothers and 2 girls. She was one of the girls, obviously. And she used to tell people, she had 3 sons herself, I'm the youngest, and she used to tell people in my earshot about the oldest one, Ted, had every inoculation that was going, because first child, do it all right, seriously right. For the second one, he had about 70% of all the inoculations. And Stephen, well, no, hasn't had any. And I'm listening to this over the years and think, well, hold on a minute. Well, that's not right, is it? So I eventually, when I summoned up enough courage to ask the question, I said, Mum, what is that all about? Why didn't I have inoculations? She said, don't tell the other 2. They're colorblind. As if the inoculations had made them colorblind. So I think I said to her on another occasion, oh, maybe it's okay if I get smallpox or whatever, but as long as I've got the color in my eyes, that'd be great. So yeah, there's a little story about Joyce, my mum. So have you been watching the international football this week, chaps?
Saw the I think the Wales game was my favourite one. Gareth Bale scoring 2 brilliant goals and making me hope that we maybe get him back for another year, just to see what he can do when we're struggling to break teams down. And then we missed the England game on Saturday because of my do, which he very kindly joined us for.
He divides the opinion, really, doesn't he, Bale, about whether he should come back or not. Howard, what do you think?
When he first came back, there was a little niggle at the back of my mind, but generally I was so excited that he was coming back that all was going very well.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that when he didn't, no effort to come back this time or say anything else. I think he's fairly honest in saying what I want to do is play for Wales. Not interested in playing for the others, but he needs the others to keep at least some level of fitness.
Of course he does.
I think
in a way, it's a bit honest. It's a bit honest, but people sometimes don't like honesty.
Yeah.
Do they? When it works against them, their aim of the situation.
Yeah.
So, but fair play to him. They were two special goals, weren't they?
That's true, for sure.
Two great goals. And other Tottenham goal scorers, of course, Harry with the penalty.
Yeah.
Where does that put him in the goal scoring list? Does anyone know?
Second behind Rooney. He's three goals behind Rooney. He's now one above Charlton, two above Lineker, and etc.
Great. Where does Jimmy Greaves fall in that?
He's the next one.
Is he?
So we have Greaves, Lineker, Kane, all Spurs players in those top five.
Fantastic. Tom, did you see Bergwijn's goals?
I did, yeah. He's looking pretty sharp, isn't he?
Yeah,
and
brilliant.
If he's he's obviously got something in his locker which comes out every now and again. I mean, he's not getting an awful lot of a chance at Spurs at the moment, but
yes,
I
kids doing so well.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, I'd be quite surprised if Bergwijn's still with us next season, but he's definitely got something about him. It's just unlocking it, isn't it?
And Son also scored this week. I don't think it was on the same days as our internationals. Probably not, because it's an Asian competition, I suppose. But good to see him on the score sheet again. And what about Eriksen? What a goal.
Amazing.
What a goal. Wow.
Made him skipper tonight.
Have they?
Yeah.
Any thoughts about him coming back?
Well, I presume he's not going to come back. I presume he's going to stay at Brentford probably next season as well.
Do you think so? Yeah.
But if he would we take him back? Yes. Yeah. Would he want to come back?
Yeah. He's got a hell of a kicking technique on him, hasn't he? The way he put that goal in, my word. So Tottenham current players and ex-players have actually done very well this week, haven't they?
Yeah.
In terms of goal scoring and performances and stuff. And going back to Bow, he had some criticism, didn't he, from the Spanish press?
Yeah.
Did you read that?
Calling him a parasite, I think, was the key word that was used, and he responded to it directly, didn't he? He said he thought it was disgraceful. Yeah. I mean, he just when they question him about like why he's played more minutes for Wales than he has for Real Madrid, I think there's probably a certain manager of the club who needs to answer a question about that as well, as opposed to just Gareth himself. But I mean, he even at Spurs last season, he didn't play that much, but he was a difference maker in certain games. He didn't really do it in any big ones, but there were games like where I'm just thinking of like our recent ones against Southampton and Wolves, maybe at home, where the onus is on us to do something and we just never got around to doing it. And you just think the difference he might make here and at key moments throughout the season to just get a few of those crucial points on board. But at the same time, maybe that's not what Conte wants. He'll probably want a team that's going to be consistent throughout the season, playing the same way, playing the way he wants them to play, rather than relying on that kind of thing. So, but having felt like robbed of seeing him back at Spurs because of the lockdown and because Jose didn't really play him that much. I would love to see him back just for just to see him play in the flesh again, really at White Hart Lane.
And although this player didn't score, Kyle Walker-Peters, great to see his inclusion in the England setup, wasn't it?
He scored, and it was disallowed, wasn't it?
Was it? Well, I haven't seen it because I was at Tom's birthday party.
Yeah.
So he scored. Wow.
He scored, but it was disallowed.
Yeah. I went to Exeter were playing up in the Midlands somewhere, and we saw that Spurs under 21s were playing at Leicester. So me and Paul Tisdale, the manager, went along and saw him play. And I think there'd been some mention about us being able to take him on loan. And I think he played right back in a obviously a back four. And we come away thinking, great going forward, not sure about him defensively, but he's obviously developed over the next few years, and good enough to, of course, get a place regularly in Southampton's team, which is interesting. And I suppose it begs the question, like on many occasions, should we have let him go? Any opinion?
I think when he came, he was in competition with Kyle Walker, and Trippier.
Yes,
and certainly
so it was a long way back.
Daniel had done a deal for Trippier to go, but then they needed to replace him. The question is, have we replaced him with anything better? The answer is no. And
we haven't as yet.
So far.
Yeah. Doherty's looking improving though.
Yes, he is.
Definitely improving. He's got a lot more confidence about him and drive and purpose about his game.
He's making things happen,
goals.
Isn't he? Making
goals.
Yeah.
So well done him. So maybe we haven't quite seen the best of him yet. But go on.
Any of them, any of the fullbacks we've got, or any players we've got, we always know year on year we can talk about players who were the first year with us who were awful. And then second year they start to become players. And we the supporters, never remember that.
Yeah.
If the new boy comes in, he's not doing well, he's rubbish, get rid of him, he's nonsense.
Yeah.
And
actually back to Bale was one of those, wasn't he?
Yes, Harry was on the verge of sending him back. Was the story that I heard.
Yeah.
Chris Waddle had a tough first year as well, didn't he?
Chris Waddle had because I was there.
Yeah.
And Peter Shreves, in the end, the manager, is saying to me, Steve, give him information every time he's on the ball. Give him information, lead him. Almost as if he couldn't lead himself at that point. And actually, when you're lacking confidence in that situation, you need help around you, don't you? But he certainly got out of it in the end.
Did all right, didn't he?
That first season, I remember that we played Andy Turner.
Yes.
I remember as supporters, we were all saying, Turner's better than Waddle. Why don't they play him? Because
it didn't quite turn out that way, did it?
No.
Yeah. Andy Turner sort of disappeared, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did well under Venables, and then Ozzy didn't quite fancy him.
Yeah, because he scored that. He was the youngest Premier League goal scorer at one point, wasn't he? When he got that last minute winner against Everton. But I think on the subject of players though, like who struggled first, like Luka Modric, his first season, he didn't really get going. He didn't really, set the world alight in his first year at Spurs, and it was probably second and third season he really picked it up, and then his final season before he wanted to leave, I think, and Levy Daniel kept him for another year before he went up to Madrid, and that final season he was unreal, absolutely brilliant. But he again,
I suppose it happens so many times it's no surprise, is it?
Yeah, we should never write him off, should we?
It keeps happening, and it just highlights the lack of time. Friends of mine have got the sack lately at various clubs around the country without any time to improve the team and stuff.
Yeah.
So owners are not giving time. Actually, what you're saying, Howard, is supporters don't give time.
Sure.
It's all being condensed in, isn't it? And I remember, and you would remember, how the great sort of Liverpool teams used to buy players under no pressure, used to buy them when they themselves were at the top of the league or near the top, and bring in a couple of new players and probably wouldn't play them for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
And everyone's just waiting. And by the way, for those 3 or 4 months, they're settling in to the training, to the new relationships with the players around them and stuff, and seeing the environment, tasting the environment. So it's sort of obvious that you're going to take time to settle in, aren't you? With young families and new houses, et cetera, and new roads to drive on, especially if you're coming from abroad. Well, even if you're coming from the north. So I suppose it's not so unusual. And we'll go from a young player to the old player now, Defoe, Jermain Defoe.
Jermain Defoe.
Retiring. Give us your thoughts on that one, Howard.
Jermain Defoe was clearly an out-and-out striker. He was one of the most dedicated strikers I think I've ever seen, along with Gary Lineker and a few others. But he did nothing other than score goals. And as long as he's scoring goals, that made him a great player.
Yeah.
What I did come across, and I think is another thing between the difference between the players and the supporters, is that I remember he played one game and he'd been offside 45 times, I think, during the game. And the crowd are getting on his back. And that evening I was out with some of the boys and Ray was there. And he said to me, I said, what about Defoe? Meaning, isn't he awful? And Ray said, he's fantastic. He keeps making the runs and he keeps making the runs. And eventually one of them he'll be onside for. But you just got to keep making the runs. And as a supporter, I'm really fed up with him. But actually, his end result was worth it.
Yeah. And you're talking about the great Ray Clements there.
Yeah.
Who played with some great strikers.
Absolutely.
So he sort of had an opinion and just saw what was nearly happening, I suppose, with the, if you're offside by an inch, it's offside. Yeah. So the person who's offside by an inch, if he just adjusts his run, he's going to be in next time. And that was the beauty of him. Tom, any opinion there on Defoe?
I really liked him most of the time. Like Howard, I found him frustrating with the amount of offsides he had. But and if he wasn't scoring, then you think what is he doing? But when he was on form, I can't remember another player in recent years, maybe apart from Pavlyuchenko, who could just hit the ball as hard and as kind of accurately when he's on form. When he's not, it would go miles wide. But I remember when he signed. And I think he scored in his debut against Portsmouth. And then in the next few games, he scored against Leicester and Charlton, I think. And they were all kind of really instinctive strikers' goals. I remember thinking, this is like Lineker. This is like having one of those. I can remember the last time we had a real out and out finisher like that. You could just see the way he finished, that he was a natural goal scorer. And like for the most part, he did really well, but he did go through periods of where it just wasn't really happening for him, and as Howard says, when it wasn't happening from in front of goal, it wasn't really happening in any way whatsoever. And he had a lot of competition. He was at the team, whereas at the moment we've got like Harry Kane up front, and that's it, unless we kind of shifts on. Defoe was playing at the same time as having Robbie Keane, Freddie Kanouté, Dimitar Berbatov. And then obviously when he came back, Pavlyuchenko and co were there as well. So there's always a lot of competition, and maybe that stopped him from really getting a kind of real long permanent run. But when he was on form, he was just a very natural goal scorer who you could tell could turn, react, and finish. Like the best of them.
Talking about natural goal scorers, I spent a great evening last Friday evening on stage with Pat Jennings, Alan Mullery, and Big Chiv. This was in Radlett. This was one of Mike Rollo's events in the theatre there, as I said, in Radlett. And we were there to talk about and reminisce about the successful campaign, 1982 in the UEFA Cup. And I was really pleased with the health and the look of Alan Mullery. And he's the oldest of the four of us. I'm the youngest. Mm-hmm. And he had an opinion on every game, on every situation. Of course, on him coming back from Fulham to lead the team again in the semi-final and then final. Guess what? He scored in the second leg in AC Milan, which got us through, actually. And he scored the winning goal against Wolves. Fantastic. And, not a typical Alan Mullery goal, was it? It was a quick free kick in from Martin Peters, almost Jeff Hurst-like. He gets in with a header, and I think he got some type of concussion. But he was being asked, as we all were, about the best player they've ever seen at Tottenham Hotspur. And Alan's answer was, I can't name the best player, because how can you judge the striker against the goalkeeper, for instance? And so he named Jimmy Greaves as the out-and-out goal scorer, exactly what you said, Howard. And he said he was the laziest son of a bitch And he spoke about him in pre-season training, cheating and jumping on the back of lorries to get to the training ground first. But then he was too clever to get there first because everyone would have realised. So he sort of waited around the corner and finished halfway. So, great memories. It's really good to meet up with the old players, especially when you're talking about you've actually shared the taste of victory and glory by picking up a trophy. And this was obviously from the 70s, but there's nothing better than meeting with your old teammates. Next week, we've got Brighton to play, and I've been wanting this next guest on for quite a long time. Gary Stevens, he's the link with Brighton. Howard, you know Gary very well. Good friend of both of ours. I asked you the question before this podcast was on. I know that he lives in Thailand, and you thought he sort of veers between another place. Malaysia. Yeah. And does he still work on television?
I think so, yes.
Probably does, yeah. So Thailand, Malaysia, but he's based in Thailand, isn't he?
Yes.
So he's going to come on and talk about his joining Spurs. I think he joined for £300,000. Keith Birkinshaw signed him. And, of course, he was part of the successful UEFA Cup campaign in 1980.
Penalties.
Yeah, scored a penalty. Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking that about Harry Kane, because his goal the other day, his international goal, was a penalty. And you think, okay, it's a penalty, and that goes on to his total. And did the other goal scorers sign penalties, take penalties? But a goal is a goal, actually, isn't it? And then you look at Italy, not qualifying for the World Cup.
Mm.
And is it the Italian Chelsea player missed a penalty in both games against Switzerland, who did qualify? So taking a penalty is not a given, is it?
No.
It's not a given that you're just going to score it, because there's obviously a lot of pressure involved. So yeah, I saw Mike England take a penalty the other day for on a bit of film about a long ago Spurs game. I think it might have been against Derby County when they ended up beating us 5-3, having us been 3-1 up. Roger Davis, who I actually met the other day. Roger Davis. I went to an 80th birthday party, and I was sat on the same table as Roger Davis. And then, by luck, I happened to be scrolling through the Facebook and stuff, and there he is scoring the goals against us. So yeah, but a very, very, very nice guy, a very nice man. And he shouldn't have quite done to us what he did on that evening. So looking forward to Gary being with us as our next guest. And yeah, so in between this podcast and the next one comes April the 4th. And I was talking to Paul Miles the other day of the club, who works for the club, does all the interviews on the pitch with the managers and stuff, and does various projects in the program. So I phoned him up to try and highlight something for me, a future talk coming up. And he said, Steve, yes, of course I'll do that for you, but I need to speak to you about April the 4th. It's rearing its head up. It's coming. What do you mean, April the 4th? He said, Steve, you scored 2 goals against AC Milan on April the 4th. Well, a non-goal scorer should know when he scored 2 goals, because I was the type of player, I've said it before, who was lucky to get 2 shots a game, let alone score 2 goals. So yeah, I did that, tit for tat, etc. And Tom, at your party, for instance, it was really good to meet the two people from the Tottenham Trust, Kat and Martin.
Yeah.
Are you must be quite close to them, the fact that you invited them to your party?
Yeah, I know Kat and Martin very well, and a few other members of the trust as well. Pete Haynes just stepped down, actually, and Rob White and Thula. Martin. There's a really nice bunch of them working there. I know they work very, very hard, and they get a lot of flack as well.
All voluntary.
All voluntary. As I said, they have to put up with a lot because there's a lot of people out there who think they could do better, but don't. They don't put up themselves though, So
I step up to the plate.
Yeah, no, they work very hard, and they've had influence in all sorts of things.
The new European League is raising its head again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the season tickets.
Yeah, the season ticket dates, ticket renewal dates. The other thing was to do with all games being on TV when during lockdown. There was they played a key part in making sure that everybody could watch, that all games would be available to everyone to watch, while fans weren't able to go there.
Yeah, some fans want more protest. They think that the protests sort of push Sugar out the door, and they made a point on a podcast I watched today that Sugar was not pushed out. Sugar doesn't worry about what people say about him. He just got the right offer.
Yeah.
Got the right offer. And who knows? Maybe Daniel, if he got the right offer, would move on. Who knows? So I don't suggest that he definitely would, but who knows? So let's see what comes of that. So, Tom, you didn't hear this earlier, Howard. Tom has got a bad voice today because on Sunday he was on Saturday night he was doing lots of singing at his birthday party. And one that I was most impressed with was when he sang "Can't Smile Without You"
with Kat. It was a duet
with Kat, of course, absolutely. And by the way, I've been invited, but not to sing "Can't Smile Without You" to the barbecue end of May. That's the Tottenham Trust barbecue, Tom, isn't it?
That's right, at the Antwerp in
at the
N17.
Antwerp Arms.
Yeah,
and they tell me it's good value and
always a great day.
I don't think it's anything to get in, but I suppose they have to get the invite, don't they? Or ask for the invite.
Yeah, I think you register on the Trust website, and you'll get free barbecue food and an entry to what's always a really good day.
But as they said, bring some money with you because there's raffles and there's this and there's that and there's fundraising. So if you get in for nothing, surely that's right. So before I finish, if I can just talk about some projects or talks that I've got coming up, already arranged. I'm at Ware FC in Hertfordshire. I'm at Chelmsford FC, obviously in Essex. And I'm having talks with your club, Tom, Whitchurch, which is near Winchester, with Blackpool, County Durham, and one in South London. I'm not sure I can do the South London one. I don't really know where South London is. But anyway, if anyone wants details or want to be put on the list for me to send you details when these things have been arranged, then you need to get on to Steve Perryman Public at gmail.com. Steve Perryman Public at gmail.com. Chaps, really good to link up with you again. Let's look forward to the next podcast, Gary Stevens. I think it'll be a very interesting one to speak to. Thank you, troops, for listening. Hope our players continue to score goals, as many for us as they do for their international teams, and they all come back fit. So, come on, you Spurs, and speak to you soon.